And we're back live here on the floor at Benaroya Hall, and well, we had a long one. Game 2, it's kind of a big deal, kind of the longest game in competitive Dota history, and these people were a part of it with us, Draskell, and IG and DK nonetheless got to keep things rolling on here and try to find a way to fight their way into the next round of the winner's bracket. We're all tied up 1-1, an absolute farm fest, two teams that like to take their time and be methodical, as we just had demonstrated to us about as clearly as could possibly happen. Looking ahead to Game 3, can't wait to see what these two teams have in store, because I think at least one of them is going to try to surprise us.
Yeah, I would hope so. I think for DK, maybe the element of surprise could be to their advantage because they just had such a long, drawn-out game. Ideally, they probably would have won that game, but a couple of mistakes were made and ended up turning around in favor of IG. So now it's 1-1. You really don't want to drop to the loser's bracket yet because it's still BO1 if you go down. So it's really, really scary for you. So now if you're DK, I think it's time to pull out the stops. If you have something in mind that you wanted to pull out to keep yourself in the upper bracket, this is the time to do it. For IG, they're definitely riding a high, which is also dangerous because now you're in a position where they're feeling confident, they're back in their comfort zone. They were so close to losing that game, they lost the racks, and they come back. So if you're DK, you're kind of backed into the corner right now. I'd say let loose, just go for it.
Exactly, and Invictus Gaming, a team that is certainly not short of playmakers, and this is the kind of game I'd like to see them just put into those playmakers' hands. Ferrari in particular, give him a role, give him a hero that you know he can do something with from the get-go. Let him break out of that mold. Like you said, these poor support players, I can't even imagine how happy they are to actually have a chance to look at another hero for a while. I mean, they did nothing in Game 2. DK going to go ahead and grab up the Weaver with their first pick. After banning out the Chen and the OD, the Bat and the Alchemist banned out by Invictus. We'll see what they want to get rid of next.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me is DK's style in terms of what we were used to seeing them pick earlier on, especially in the preliminaries when they played against Dignitas. We actually had a chance to cast that game ourselves, and they were huge proponents of the DK and the Chen picks, and now they're actually just banning out Chen themselves, totally ignoring DK. So their style, in a sense, has changed, but they've also shown that they can deal with that kind of a death ball strategy way back to Game 1. Seems like forever ago because we just casted a game that was darn near 2 hours long. But they show that they know how to delay. They know how to put IG in an uncomfortable position if they pick that kind of strategy. So DK, I think, are still feeling okay here.
IG taking their time, and again, we've seen a variety of Weaver's just one of those heroes who's really surged to prominence, and for the longest time up until a few months ago, he really just was a very situational pick. Then you had occasionally a team or two begin to use him, but he fits into so many different lineups. You can put him into a hard carry role, you can send him into an off lane, hell, you can run him mid if you're confident about that matchup and you want to give him that much priority. But with DK again coming off of that loss, they're gonna go ahead and see a Darkseer and a Dragon Knight answer by Invictus Gaming, and it doesn't really get a whole lot more stable than what we see. I mean, let's be honest, since the latest patch that changed the draft order, the front 4 picks you can only feel out so much. I mean, a Dragon Knight most likely going to wind up mid. Darkseer is just kind of the do everything kind of a guy. Whatever you need him to do, he can. Weaver very much fits into that, and we'll see what DK wants to pair up with him. Tree is available if they wanted to go something like that. Or if they just want to pick any kind of an aggressive lineup, we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, the thing about the Darkseer pick is it kind of makes Tree not as useful. Just because even if you put a Darkseer in the off lane against a safe lane Weaver and a tri lane with a Tree, that Darkseer is going to feel fine. Like, he's not going to suffer at all. You would have to pick a support that's really good at punishing a Darkseer, like a Disruptor or a Shadow Demon, to compensate, to make him feel scared enough to where that lane's not going to give him free levels and experience. But DK, they're going to go ahead and pick up the Visage, so obviously a very strong hero in most cases. He's really good support, can be played aggressively, defensively, pretty much however you want it. IG, though, they get the DK. It's probably going to be mid. The Darkseer can do multiple things. YYS Darkseer is, disgusting, by the way. One of my favorite heroes to watch him play, so hopefully he gets his hands on that. And for DK, still, the options are pretty wide open. IG, we know that Dragon Knight's most likely going to be mid because, heck, people just don't put him anywhere else nowadays. So, still, a lot of options for both teams.
Tinker going to be the ban out from DK, and he's going to understand why. I mean, you see, a Darkseer, a Dragon Knight, that kind of combination is a combination that can begin to push very effectively, so get rid of the Tinker, get rid of his push potential. No surprise to see IG is not about to let Burning get his hands on Anti-Mage, and really it wouldn't surprise me at all if the next 2 bans coming out of Invictus are nothing but Burning bans. That's just what you do against DK, but I mean, we saw in games 1 and 2, obviously. Game 1 going to DK, game 2, longest game in Dota history, and Invictus Gaming walking away with the win there. But the reason it went so long, DK, they had a game plan they executed. In fact, they seemed to be unassailably ahead at one point after they brought down that central set of racks. But, yeah, so far, Tinker, Anti-Mage, only bans. Now, finally, the Gyrocopter going to be taken out by DK, and that makes a ton of sense. You don't want to have that multi-core synergy, the Dragon Knight, the Gyrocopter, the Darkseer, Vacuum, and to call down, of course, one of the most potent combinations. It's one of also the easiest to execute. Then you could pair that up with a Dragon Knight, Breathe Fire, just the mass amount of damage that you could put out with such an easy combination to execute. Just not something DK wants to leave on the table.
It really says to me that DK don't want to give away heroes that could potentially delay the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Call Down is really good for D-Push. Tinker is just relatively annoying in general. March of the Machines can stop you from applying pressure. So I think that DK actually want to go on the aggressive here with the Visage pick. We'll see if the Weaver's going to end up going like a 1v1 in a safe lane, or if they want to put him in the tri lane himself. He can definitely do that. But the thing about that choice this early is that we've only seen one hero of IG's tri lane so far, and that's going to be the Rubik. And Rubik can do a multitude of things, so we're not sure exactly what they have in store for it just yet. But DK now going to be picking up their third. We'll see if it's going to be a secondary support. They already know that DK is going to be mid, so they can pick a lot actually against him if they really want to. We've even seen Viper a handful of times this tournament against him, just because it's so nice at being able to zone him out, and it's obviously just a good mid hero in general. But I might actually, there's a lot of options really for DK. That's the thing. Like, their lineup leaves them so much leeway.
They're going to grab the Nyx Assassin. I was going to say they actually have a decent chance to run an offensive trial lane with those front two, the Visage and the Weaver. And, you know, Nyx Assassin, honestly, is a viable mid pick. Don't know if that's going to be how they want to run him, if they want to run him as a lane support. But, you know, again, in the end, these compositions, both, and this is how it was in the drafting game, too. Sometimes you have a quick Lifestealer DK pickup or something like that, or a Chin Dragon Knight pickup where you know exactly what they're going to want to put with it. With Invictus Gaming, they could go any direction they want. With Dragon Knight, he's one of those heroes. If they want to pick up another core that they can run elsewhere, run him mid, and of course run another carry, which is most likely what you would think they would do. They can do that and just put together a big-time team fight kind of a team, or they want to put together any kind of a push lineup. They have the options to do that as too. Nature's Prophet's available, as is the Enchantress, as she's picked up. So Invictus Gaming might be looking to turn this into a push-centric kind of a composition, which really makes sense when you look at what DK has here. The front three they have are amazing heroes, but it's heroes that have to play in that specific way we've already seen a couple of times. They have to be kind of surgical in the way they approach things. They're not heroes that just want to run in the first 20 minutes and start taking team fights. So what's the best way to deal with that? Force them to choose between either taking team fights or losing towers.
I think IG are... The thing about getting Chen is it's nice because you get Hand of God, but Enchantress basically serves the same purpose as a Chen in the super early game, like we're talking pre-6. And you're absolutely right, they can go for those early game towers if they want to. And the other thing about DK's lineup is right now, what D-push do they really have? They have a Nyx with an Impale, and I guess Shukuchi, and that's about it. Of course, they still have 2 more picks to try to supplement that somewhat. But since they've already picked their supports, they're basically making it so you have to go for a hero that is not a support that has D-push, and either that or you try to win the lanes elsewhere. But I like the Nyx Visage combo in general. It's very aggressive. It's very easy to get kills with that. You can just go, smoke up, gank. We're going to see a Spectre, so it looks like we're going to have a safe lane tri-lane coming out from DK, which is... It's a little bit risky to me, because it's still another hero who doesn't really do anything for the D-push department, and you need a lot of time for Spectre to really get going. So a lot of Spectres now go for the phase boots and drums into a Radiance, which is still going to be pretty strong, but you still have that window where you're not feeling confident enough to really fight, per se. And more than anything, DK's lineup is meant for single target damage. They're meant to burst right now and not really take that many fights, in my opinion. But we'll see how heavily IG want to pressure.
No, I agree with you completely. And that's kind of what I was alluding to whenever you talk about that surgical approach where you're looking to take fights in ways that you're 100% in control of, where you have an inherent numbers advantage, or you just burst the target down, and then the enemy team has a hard time coping with you because either they're out of position, or if they do show up, they're automatically down a man. But Invictus Gaming, I mean, when you look at the way they're probably going to lane this, DK mid, Darkseer, there are so many heroes they could pick up even now. And yeah, DK is actually going to go ahead and get rid of the Shadow Fiend. That was one I was going to mention, a hero who gives you an immense amount of push. With them, they're going to go and grab the Lone Druid again. This time it'll be Invictus Gaming running the Syllabear, and DK looking for their mid hero, unless that is going to be a mid Nyx Assassin.
Well, it could be a mid Nyx, honestly, but We'll see. The last pick is pretty much going to dictate that. I think what's going to end up happening is a Lone Druid's going to be against the Weaver in a 1v1, and then we're going to see a tri-lane, obviously, with the Spectre. We'll see if the Nyx is going to be the one who ends up going mid or not. The nice thing about being against a DK mid is you can pretty much put anything you want against it, and it's going to do okay. Dragon Knight's going to be able to farm against anybody, but yep, we're going to see a Magnus, so DK going to pick up the Mag. I believe that's going to be mid, so it's probably going to be the Magnus. Yeah, it's going to be Super versus Ferrari's DK most likely. So the Lone Druid versus the Weaver, and it's going to be probably in the top lane, and then we're going to have the tri-lane versus tri-lane maybe. We'll see if the IG actually want to go aggressive with this. Could be interesting.
As the players get ready to load in. Game 3 of this best of 3 just about to get underway, and taking a look again, when I'm so happy to see a Magnus pickup just because it's been so long. You just don't get to see Mags. There was a great game, of course, if you were watching the games earlier today. Then if you missed those matches, you definitely need to go back and take a look. But, that gives DK some much-needed D-push in their own right. We talked about that a bit. When it comes to D-push, it doesn't always have to be the ability to melt down creeps or the ability to just spam things out. Just having the threat of one big spell, that like a reverse polarity, any kind of big initiation that is, obviously Magic Community doesn't block it. Anything like that can just change a game. Just having that kind of range and that kind of threat is in and of itself D-push and might make IG think twice. But again, they do have a nice way to approach these fights using Enchantress in conjunction with the Lone Druid's Bear. I really like the way the Darkseer can serve as a fairly nice form of counter initiation. And of course, picking a Magnus into a Rubik, that's always chancy to begin with. So Faith certainly going to have a lot of good spells to steal throughout this game. He'll be able to steal the reverse polarity, he'll be able to steal Shukuchi, and be able to steal Soul Assumption even perhaps. So definitely something DK is going to have to be aware of. They simply cannot allow themselves to be to lose track of that Rubik, or it could end up blowing up in their face in a very real, very, very big way. Doesn't look like either team is willing to cross the river right now, so we'll run through our lineup so we have a chance. We'll have Burning playing on our Spectre, no surprise there, with Super setting up shop on the magnificent Magnosaurus here in mid. The Weaver going to be handled by ROTK. He's heading up to the top lane. We'll have QQQ playing on our Visage. And the Nyx Assassin going to be handled by MMY. On the other side of the river, we've got Faith playing on our Rubik. Going to have Lone Druid handled by Zoe. DK going to be setting up shop here in mid. Ferrari 430 will be in control. Darkseer going to be played by YYF. And Chuan going to be our last hero. That'll be the Enchantress.
The forest cloaks me.
So for these lanes, obviously they decided to dodge each other. Both teams going to be going safe. YYF is probably not going to feel that scared. There's only one stun in this tri-lane. He does need to hit level 2 though. Like, he doesn't have Surge. So for the first probably few waves, if everybody controls it well, which is going to be tough because they're actually using the Lone Druid to pull the creep wave to get him level 2. If that is successful, then there's going to be a point where he's going to not feel any pressure at all, really. He can just sit there and soak experience. And even with an Impale and a Soul Assumption, just simply not enough damage. So we'll see how much he's able to get here in bottom lane. We talked about mid matchup, DK versus Mag. That's kind of both heroes are just going to be farming. It's more or less how it is. The DK is a bit more sustained, though.
And very nice. He's going to be able to grab these creeps just about. Can he? Yep, got him. Very well done by QQQ, denying this. YYF will be able to come over and get at least some of that experience. But yeah, very well done, using his Grave Chill to slow the bear and slow the creeps progression just enough to grab the ancient Rumble Hides to deny these creeps. So yeah, nice little way to get the game started. Nice little play.
Yeah, I didn't actually think about that, but pretty sick stuff coming out from the Visage. And RTK in the top lane, he's going to be suffering here quite a bit because they do have a Rubik, of course, with Sentries. It's going to be a lot harder for him to get experience, I think, in the long run than it will be for YYF. And of course, if he needs to, he can just go back to the jungle and start farming in there instead. So for the early game laning phase, I think that IG's offlaner is going to obviously get more than DK's, but we always talk about mid-game, what Super can bring with the RPs and what kind of teamfight potential there's going to be. The problem is, since they're against a DK and a Lone Druid and an Enchantress, if they lose fights early on, they're going for towers. Heck, they're going for one now in top lane.
Nice big ol' creep wave full of bears and satyrs and everything you could want. IG wasting no time, wanted to break apart this laning phase. We're going to go ahead and make a move on the tier 1. We're going to see Weaver zoned out a bit, or OTK not whole lot he can say about this. They have plenty enough creeps here that they should be able to bring this down, even with the glyph. Down at bottom, Burning in no hurry to respond in kind. He's content to just continue farming it up. But more action in the first 2 minutes than we had in, I don't know, stretches of 20 in our previous game. And down goes our Tier 1. IG bringing the buildings down first.
The thing about killing the Tier 1 in the off lane for IG is that they know that DK is not going to want to go for their safe lane that quick, just because if you do that, it pretty much eliminates Burning's ability to farm. Spectre is not a good hero to go into the jungle and try to farm, where Zoe can do that and be pretty efficient at it. And heck, he doesn't even have to do just that, whereas the Spectre does need to farm. They're actually just going to pressure the Tier 2, force support reaction here. Visage is already here. Oh, ROTK.
Nice sentry ward. Can they catch up with him? They can't. Visage, as you said, is there. ROTK turned around, trying to kill off Faith. He got greedy. And ends up being our first blood, going the way of Chuan. And here's going to be 2 TPs. They're going to try to look for a return kill. Impale comes up short. Zoe able to hop skip his way just above the Impale there. It's going to be 1-1 at the moment. And DK and IG keeping it close so far. Down at bottom, we can see Spectre winning out the farm game, 23 CS for her. The big winner, of course, is Magnus. Super sitting at 19, so very nice start for him. He's only 500 gold away from having his arc boots up. After that, falls off. You got 14 for Ferrari, 12 for the Lone Druid, and the grab bag after that.
Well, as nice as the CS is for Burning, there's always the risk of getting pushed in really hard. I mean, what can these supports do? What can a Nyx and a Visage, who's level 2, do if IG decide to just go mid when Ferrari hits 6? I mean, Ferrari just hit 5 right now. He's going to find a haste rune in the bottom lane. Once he gets that dragon form, they're going to go for the mid tower, and there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot the DK are going to be able to do about it until they get levels. I feel like their lineup is a little bit greedy. They need to be able to get to 6. They need their ultimates. They need their supports to get 6 as well to have the full potential of their team lineup. Whereas IG are pretty much just as strong through like levels 3 to 5. I mean, Fade Bolt on the Rubik, sure, getting Spell Steal is nice, but it's not 100% necessary. And I mean, you have a Darkseer and a Lone Druid. Once the Lone Druid hits 5, you have Entangle. So it's pretty much all you need.
5 minutes in, 2 kills on the board. And really just waiting to see when and if IG really does want to break up the status quo. I mean, obviously Zoe's not going to be too upset about the way things are going up here. ROTK is soaking up some decent experience. He's about a level 4.5. Faith sitting at 3.5. But here in mid, obviously Ferrari, fairly gankable for DK as well. A little bit tougher to gank out of Magnus just because of how good of an escape Skewer can be. But both teams really, I mean, when you're talking about an Enchantress plus a Rubik, that's a roaming kind of a combination. Same on the other side of the river as well. Whenever you talk about a Nyx Assassin and a Visage, these are not stationary sit-by-your-carry heroes for the most part, at least not during this phase of the game. So one or both of these teams, I would suspect, is going to look to make something happen. Super making his way up to the secret shop, buys his arc boots, so all of a sudden got to be a lot easier to be a Magnosaurus there in that mid lane, but I would imagine we'll see a smoke come out sometime soon. QQQ has one in his inventory already, and take a look at Faith. Chuan has one, of course, on the Enchantress.
I just want to see how IG want to play this. There's an urn picked up now on Chuan, so if they want to start going on the aggressive, it's going to be nice for them. Ferrari is 6 now, so if they want to try to come mid, potentially go for a gank and then go for the tower, it is a possibility. Although ganking a Mag is pretty hard for their team. They don't really have that much damage. Going to see haste rune popped here, and Faith and Chuan rank towards mid, though. They're going to get spotted.
QQQ going to take some right clicks. He's actually going to be bursted down to half health. Super's there, spins the RP to lock him down, and look at the damage. Nice skewer. The haste rune going to be used, though, and here comes Burning. Soul Assumption is enough. Threw it from downtown and locked down the kill. Very high-profile kill there.
I thought he was just going to skewer him on the ledge, actually. He was like right there, but he didn't use the skewer until after the stun from the RP wore off. So interesting choice, but they end up getting the kill anyway. Going to be nice to be able to pick him off. That means that the push is just not going to come.
Yep.
Because of the fact that he uses ulti, it's down for another 80 seconds, so they keep their mid tower safe for the moment. They've only lost their offlane at the point in time, so it's good that they haven't lost anything else. And ROTK is now going to get some very much needed experience. He was only level 4, but since they started to move towards middle lane, he's had some relief time. And YYF has also decided to go to the jungle. So both offlaners now getting some experience and gold they desperately need. But for DK, I think that the longer they can delay this game, pretty much the better it's going to be.
Oh, of course. When you have a Spectre, the way that that's going to work out against IG's lineup, I mean, as tanky as the Lone Druid and the Dragon Knight are become, I mean, well, to tell you the truth, whenever it comes down to like dispersion damage, it's always going to be a factor. But they have a pretty survivable team on the other side. IG, with Nature's Attendance on the Enchantress, the fact that Darkseer tends to naturally tank up. He'll usually build a mech, sometimes a pipe. DK, certainly a hero that tanks up, as does a Lone Druid. Rubik, really the only one to worry about. But yeah, like DK's lineup, whenever I look at, especially at that Magnus pick, that's exactly what it feels like. It's a very much a delay game kind of a tactic. I mean, he's going to be excellent throughout the entirety of the game, and eventually, of course, Empower, going on to Burning, will be a huge, huge influence on his damage output. It'll certainly make him much more willing to come to fights in the mid game, but leading up to the late game. But yeah, the Magnus pick definitely strikes me as a delay tactic. Okay, if you're going to push, we're going to send our mag mid. We know for a fact you're going to be sending a Dragon Knight there. We're not too worried about the way he's going to farm. He's going to get off to a great start, and he has, sitting at 44 CS now. So he's going to have a Blink Dagger before too terribly long. He already has his Arc Boots and 500 towards it. And now, what's going on right now? IG is capitalizing on an opening. Now they're going to go ahead and go on QQQ. Here comes Mag again. RP! Caught all three, and look at all the damage as IG, trying to be aggressive, ends up feeding 3. And Super reminding us all, Magnus still a pretty good hero.
Man, such a good play from Super, catches all 3 of them. I'm surprised IG were that grouped up. It's a little bit uncharacteristic for them to get caught out like that. But the nice thing again, DK died with his ult. Yep. So no more pressure to the mid-tier tower. He did a little bit of damage, but it was what, less than a quarter of the tower's HP. So they're going to be more than willing to make that trade. And again, buying more time for the Spectre. Burning wasn't even required at that fight. He's going to have his drums finished pretty soon, and then he can actually start fighting. He's max Dagger, and he's secondary maxing Desolate at the moment, which is really nice, because if you catch out supports, like the Rubik, or the Enchantress even at this point, the damage that you do to them is so high that they can't really live through it. That's the one strength of Spectre that I think a lot of people kind of forget. She is not really the best early game hero, but even mid game, if you get 1 or 2 items, her damage output skyrockets, and especially with Haunt still lasting now, even when you decide to reality to someone, makes a pretty big difference.
Ferrari here in mid actually hasn't done too bad of a job, obviously dying off, certainly not helping his cause, but sitting on 39 CS and picking up his bottle. He'll have his shreds up before long. Now the question becomes, when you look at this DK lineup, what do you want to build? Do you want to rush some kind of a damage item like a Shadow Blade so you can capitalize on your team's natural synergy? Or do you look to just play it safe and get the BKB? BKB certainly would help a ton with the magic damage output of a Weaver and a Visage and even the Nyx Assassin. But, of course, Magnus's reverse polarity does go through BKB. And, whatever physical damage you're going to have, the right click coming out of the Weaver, etc., it's still going to be a problem. So if he wants to do that, I would say, again, I think that actually plays into DK's hands, just to build upon what you've said. IG in a position where they should be trying to seize control, and I would like to see them build not just their DK, but their Druid in a way to do that as well.
The control is what's important here. Like IG have one of those lineups where, very reminiscent of like we were talking about before DK during the prelims, they wanted to try to just get momentum, and oh man.
Radiant's middle tower
over here we're going to have a catch out, Faith in trouble, blown up. And Ferrari's going to re-engage, might not be his best idea. Here comes Mag! RP catches 2 more, Chuan's gone, Zoe has to break to the south. Ferrari is probably going to end up dead. Oh wow, he actually made it away. Both of them did. That's stunning. The fact that they managed to get those 2 away at all is truly phenomenal. But I'll tell you right now, this guy right here, Super, is playing some chest out Dota. His Magnus is so good.
His Mag has always been really good. I just don't know what IG are going to do. Like, they keep looking for these openings, and they keep getting turned on. It's like not even they're getting thwarted by their pushes, they're just losing the fights. So when you keep losing fights like this, how are they going to really get any momentum at all with their team? And an Enchantress does not play well from behind. So I'm really kind of worried right now for IG. I mean, obviously there's still a lot of Dota to be played. Their CS is still looking good, and they're going to be able to kill MMY middle, actually. So looks like IG managed to pay one back. And they're going to be able to push this mid tower now without the help of RP. So here's that momentum we were looking for.
Yep, 60 seconds until cooldown is off. And looks like, yeah, DK needs to be careful. They're just going to end up losing 2 heroes as well as his tier 1. I really don't think they can stop it at this point. You can see Zoe He's already picked up the Glove of Haste on the Bear. One would imagine that'll end up being a Hand of Midas. So he's going to go for the deny here. And let's see what he got. Looks like he got... Yep, time lapse is there. Where'd you go, Will?
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Managed to get to the Swarm. But tower still, yeah, that should be right at the edge of deny range. Bear's going to move forward. Now it certainly is in deny range, but zoning them out. And very nice attempt from ROTK. Very nice attempt. Unfortunately off just a little bit, so IG gets themselves on the board in a bigger way. They're trailing in kills, but they bring down the mid tier 1 to match the top tier 1 they brought down.
They really needed that tower too. For IG's lineup, it's a lot more important to try to establish that map control, because the longer the game goes for DK, you have the opportunity for Super to get a good RP, Haunt comes in, Weaver gets some farm eventually, and then you just take the team fight based on that. Whereas IG, Lone Druid and DK are definitely not bad late game, but I feel as though DK's lineup is a little bit easier to really make work for them, assuming that Rubik doesn't manage to steal that RP. So still, DK looking to be in a pretty good position here. I would like to see them apply some pressure of their own, especially whenever the Mag has a Blink Dagger, which is going to be soon. He's actually only 100 gold away, and he's already got his Arcanes. Blink RP at such an early stage in the game is going to pressure IG so much, because you know the initiation potential of a Mag is already good, but when you increase the range that much, pushing into a tier 1 is going to be tough. So the safe lane tier 1 is probably not going to be too easy for IG to push into, and that leaves Burning safe for a long time. And as I mentioned earlier, DK didn't really have an intention of pushing an early tier 1. The tier 1 is just getting hit now in the bottom lane, and it's almost 14 minutes in.
Taking a look at Burning's farm, he's certainly not squandering his opportunity to farm out of a free lane. He's got 90 CS under his belt right now, but again, the more impressive stat is Magnus. Mag already has a Blink Dagger. That's a 14-minute Blink Dagger arc boost plus a bottle plus a wand on Super, and of course, he's earned every bit of it, dropping the hammer and catching multiple heroes every single time. Now it's on DK. I mean, you know, Burning is, you know, Spectre's one of those heroes that is gaining so much in popularity because people have realized, it's like, yeah, she can hard farm and she can be an insane agility carry in the late game, but she can also just show up. Like, you just have a fight, she just shows up at a party and can help, you know, can give you some serious damage, especially as you had mentioned, with the Max Spectral Dagger, Max Desolate build, and there are nice little stopgaps in there as well. We see she's actually picked up a Vit booster so far, but being able to buy a Manta style is a great way to make use of that as well.
I love the Manta style actually on Spectre. It helps you go through those tanky heroes so much faster, like DK and Lone Druid especially. If you get a Manta Diffusal on Spectre and you go for those heroes and you make sure that they're kind of isolated in the fight, you kill them incredibly fast. There's not really much they can do about it because of the fact that Desolate is pure damage on top of the autos that you're already throwing out pretty quickly. So Familiar is going to be scouting out Roshan here. IG going to be going for it. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some contention coming out, but RTK is really out of position, and Burning, of course, can just haunt in whenever, and he is giving away Familiars, so a little bit of free gold for IG, but it looks like they will back out.
Ferrari the last to turn tail and run. DK now wandering along the ridgeline. We'll see if they want to go ahead and go for it on their own. So, going into farm mode once again, imagine that. I haven't seen a Lone Druid kill these Ancients in a while. But, oh, there's going to be a nice skewer catching Faith out. And that's just a free kill. No other way to put it. ROTK and Super caught him just hanging out on the wrong side of the railroad tracks. And that's going to make it 8-3 now.
Ferrari's not even close to his BKB. He's only got an Ogre Club. It's 16 minutes in. I think he would want to be a lot closer than he is right now. And since Super didn't... well, actually, he did use the RP. So RP is going to be on cooldown for this push. Probably means that IG's tower is going to be safe for the time being. But this whole time, man, this is one of the strengths of Spectre. When you force the other team to feel so scared that they have to group as 4 or 5 just to defend your push, and the Spectre doesn't have to be there, it's the same effect as having a Wisp, basically, because he can bring you anywhere on the map at any given time, whereas Burning on Spectre, he could be at any fight at any given time.
And IG going to take another run at Roshan. We can see ROTK is busy doing things elsewhere to the south, Burning doing the same things elsewhere, so top and bottom lane occupied. They're not even going to try to contest this. Going to be an absolute free Roshan. As you had mentioned, Ferrari still looking for that BKB, has the Ogre Club on his way to it, but still a decent chunk of gold to go until he has it. And again, it's so hard to, you know, it's one of those items you understand why he picks it up, but you know, it's so hard to make that decision over an aggressive item in this situation, in my opinion. Like, you know, you see Zoe actually is going to be building a Maelstrom. So this is going to be a Maelstrom build on this bear, and that's interesting to me. That tells me they really are terrified of DK's ability to force them into fights very soon.
Now, the Maelstrom is not a terrible choice. It gives you more, I would say, mid-game push potential and viability in terms of damage. It gives you a bit of attack speed too, which is important. You always want to make sure you can get your entangles. But I love the choice to go for Roshan by IG. They knew the RP was down. Without RP, DK can't really fight.
Yeah.
As much as we've been talking of Super and his RPs, he actually needs them to be good. Because if he doesn't get a good RP, IG's team fight automatically becomes very scary. Especially when you have things like Darkseer, who are going to be having over 2 walls relatively soon. But top, YYF.
YYF going to be engaged upon. Mex through it, and will throw down the wall to try and cover his escape. ROTK not going to care. The earn charge, plus a couple of right clicks, going to be fine. That's 9-3, and really, you know, IG won game. Like, this almost feels as if IG lost game 2. Like, this is kind of what you expect, and that's a very nice deny out of Burning at bottom, by the way. But like what we're seeing out of IG, it just feels like exhaustion. It feels like they're a half step too sluggish, and DK is just taking absolutely every one of those steps and turning it into a big, big lead. 9-3, they triple them up. We're going to see DK now pounding away on the tier 1 top down in the jungle. We will see Magnus cleaned up, so they do manage to find a kill somewhere. Now they're going to TP in. That's going to be 2 coming in. They're going to be able to catch QQQ and MMY. Nope, never mind. QQQ able to get away, and yeah, they're not even going to worry about MMY. So he makes it away under cover of Vendetta. So IG, even though they're down, they're certainly not out. We're 18 minutes into this game. Let's take a look at the gold graph. Coming up on 3,000 gold to the advantage of the Dire. Of course, that's Invictus Gaming, and 2,000 experience. So relatively close game so far. Faith did manage to steal Spectral Dagger, though, so nice little extra burst of damage for him.
That's confusing, man. It's like stealing Firefly.
Yep.
Sometimes you steal an ability, you can't tell what's going on anymore, don't know which one's which. But in the meantime, IG, they're going to push into the tier 2 in the top lane. Ferrari gets the last hit, so he's going to be closing in on that BKB that he desperately needs at this point in the game. And the Spectre is saving up money. I can only assume it's going to be a Relic, probably going for the Radiance. And once he gets the Radiance, heroes like Enchantress and Rubik are going to be suffering so much. And even the Lone Druid and the Darkseer to an extent, sure, YYF has a mech, but if the Bear lives, or excuse me, the Spectre lives in a team fight for a long time, then the damage is dealt regardless. It just doesn't matter. And when you have Dispersion, eventually you're going to have to go for Burning at some point. So once he gets that Relic and the Radiance up, I think team fights for DK are actually going to be reasonably easy to take.
Burning. Already picked up the, you know, and I love this build he's done. Picking up the phase boots, the vid booster, then the drums, just so he can feel confident to come fight a little bit earlier, even though he's now rushing a Relic. You know, he went ahead and spent that gold on those items so that when the call does come, whenever he's needed, he's not just going to go be able to blow someone up with Spectral Dagger and maybe desolate and then feel like he's going to be at real risk of dying if the rest of his team doesn't dominate along with him. He can show up and still have a really nice chance to survive any of these team fights and be able to get back to farming relatively quickly. One nice thing about an Enchantress maxing Nature's Attendance is, of course, how quickly you can take this Ancient Cam. Ferrari now closing ground on that BKB. Going to have it in just 150 gold. So about to see how that's going to end up working out. As you mentioned, Super is in one of those situations where, especially once the BKBs do come out, he has to hit his RPs. He simply has to. If he doesn't, like you said, this team is not going to be able to really feel comfortable taking fights anywhere on the map.
Well, once the Radiance is done on Spectre, even if the RP isn't great, if he hits like 1 or 2, I think that'll still be enough, just because of how much damage that Burning is going to be able to do in those team fights. But he really does need to finish it. Like, he needs the extra 1,000 gold pretty much right now. We can see that IG are starting to move. They want to try to kill before they know that that item is going to be done. They're unfortunately not going to find anyone. Burning and the Nyx have both TP'd out already, so it looks like they're going to be safe for the time being. And Roshan is going to be up in about another 5 minutes or so. So there's probably about a minute or 2 left on Zoe's Aegis. I would imagine they would try to push into a tower at this point, but it is still pretty scary. Again, Super having the Blink Dagger. He's working his way towards the BKB. It's a huge deterrent for pushes, especially considering how badly the first couple went for IG. I mean, we talk about mid, the 3-man RP that he got earlier. You're going to be feeling a bit gun-shy if you're IG to try to push into towers too quickly.
IG is showing the movement, though, as they move past the Dire side secret shop. looking to make something happen on the enemy side of the river. DK and IG both showing a propensity to avoid each other, at least from time to time. They're not going to give up the Ghost, though. They drop down the Sentry. They feel like they have control of the mid lane. This is going to be the mid tier 2 they're going to engage on. Level 2 ulti on Ferrari 430, so not only the poison effect, but the damage over time added to that poison effect and that AoE. So Ferrari and company will go ahead and pull back. Looks like, again, not really in the mood to try and contest it. Spectre, in the meantime, though, does manage to bring down the tier 1 bottom.
That's pretty big. Puts him very close to finishing up that Radiance. And once he does so, I think that DK might be feeling confident enough even to take a fight. And just even the last hits, like Burning is sitting at 154. Even the Lone Druid, who is in the safe lane, is 40 CS behind him.
Yep.
And of course, a lot of that is due in part to the fact that IG actually pushed the lane, and typically when you push, you miss some CS, but it's still pretty impressive. Like Burning, he's doing his thing. He's getting quite a bit of farm here.
Relic, and soon to be a Radiance, not far away whatsoever. We're going to see a bit more movement. They're very close to seeing each other, and Chuan not going to be spotted as he makes his way back towards the river. The characteristic restraint and patience of these two teams really showing itself here in this game. Now, Burning with that Relic up should feel very confident coming to fights. I mean, obviously, he's a bit over-leveled. He's sitting at level 14 for the moment. And yeah, level 14, highest on the board, higher than the Lone Druid, and much higher than anyone else on the map regardless. But for now, IG looking to make something happen on their own terms as they've rotated away from mid tier 2 and now down to bottom tier 2. Super trying to find a way to get himself a position. He'll have enough for his Mithril Hammer very soon if he wants to spin that gold. But once again, IG sees faces and decides it's time to run away.
I don't really blame them. In that position, Burning was in a spot as to where they would have lost their safe lane tier 1 if they kept pursuing that, and there was no guarantee they were even going to get the tower anyway, because if Burning kills a tower and uses Haunt, then he can go in and force the team fight, and there was already a bear that was pretty low, so Zoe would have been sacrificing that most likely in that situation. I was actually a bit surprised that Super didn't go in and just skewer for it, and very least try to get a kill on it. But nonetheless, going to see a smoke up from DK. It was like a fake back from Burning. Well, not really a fake, but he did transition mid, and they might be able to catch a Lone Druid.
Here we go. Zoe going to be caught out, impaled. Here comes Super. There's the skewer to bring him back, and Zoe cleaned up. That's a killing spree on the one man you do not want to have that kind of a start. Still very early on, 14 kills in a 24-minute game, but DK, again, just catching IG flat, and really that has been the tale of the tape since the beginning of the game. It's just IG making movement, doing things they want to do. You can tell they have a game plan. It's not as if they're just there mopey and depressed. Just seems like DK is constantly one step ahead.
I'm a bit surprised Burning actually used his Haunt for that. Like, that was a dead hero, I think, pretty much no matter what. But they're going to keep pushing into tier 2. Forcing a glyph out of IG. They really do want to defend this, so I'm assuming when that Lone Druid gets up, they're going to make their way here. I already see everyone else TPing, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, actually, and power on Burning is just doing work right now.
Yep, and the vacuum there, but Spectre does get the last hit on the tower. So you're talking, you know, the map control was really just crumbling now for Invictus Gaming. They're down to just 3 towers. Granted, 2 of the 3 are the mid-tier 1 and the mid-tier 2. 2 towers that you certainly want to keep up if you can. But they've now effectively lost major control of parts of their jungle and the Roche Pit. If they lose the mid-tier, lose the mid-tier 1, the Roche Pit's going to be much more wide open for DK to try and sneak or just to try and take it. But it looks like IG's actually pursuing them out. ROTK, QQQ, and MMY are the targets, but yeah, they're going to go ahead and let them fall back. So let's take another look at our gold graph, and look at that. IG, who had built themselves nigh a 5,000 gold lead, has had that completely erased. As we're getting back close to the 0 line, the experience is hovering right around 2,500.
Right now is the point in the game where DK and IG both need to start thinking about getting back into position for Roshan, because that's going to be the next point of contention. It's going to be up any second now. BKB being finished up here on Magnus, and likewise Ferrari's had his BKB for a little while. The next real big fight is pretty much going to occur in this area. In terms of team fight around Roshan, it's actually, I would favor IG just because of the fact that you know the only AoE initiation that DK have is Mag. If the Rubik just waits for him, he can probably get RP reliably, where you can just send the Lone Druid, the DK, and the Darkseer in because they're so tanky as a trio that you might be able to bait out the fight, but we'll see how they decide they want to go about it. DK smoked up, could be going for a pick before they go for it, and I don't think IG is going to get caught by this. Oh man, Darkseer's farming on the low ground.
YYF going to be the one spotted. There's the Impale, and blown up before he could do anything. Super with the victory skewer. He's going to be down for 44 seconds. This will be the loss of the Tier 1 mid. And again, IG just feeling sluggish. A little bit bad luck for YYF, but you know, not suspecting anything's going on when everyone was missing. Now they're going to try to engage. Here's the RP! Got 3 once again. The counter initiation with the vacuum isn't enough. Ferrari trying to pour on the damage. Zoe has to make a run, and Burning is just cleaning house. However, locked down, and Ferrari burning down along with YYF. We see ROTK and the Impale. One last one from MMY. DK will be able to make it a full 5-man wipe on the back of an ROTK triple kill. Not only that, death of a Tier 1 tower, map control coming back into equilibrium, and DK taking yet another big fight on the back of this man right here, Super, who has lived up to his namesake and done nothing but land RPs.
It's a darn good thing he's been landing those RPs, because that fight was actually really close considering how far the Spectre actually was. Burning died during that. It was actually a man fight between a Rubik and a Spectre. How often does that actually happen? But they killed each other, and then ROTK died because he was so intent on killing the last hero, I think it was YYF, that he didn't even time-lapse. Like, he had his ultimate, he was just like, nope, I'm just going to kill you and die instead. So, still, no Roshan, but they do manage to get the Tier 1 in the middle lane, so DK going to be quite pleased with the trade. Even though technically they lost both of their core, I think that's okay for getting an entire team wipe into Tier 1.
And again, you know, I talked about it during the draft, I alluded to it, something that, you know, it's like you mention it, but then when you see the actual effect of it, the fact that Spectre is getting so much out of Empower at this point. It is max level Empower coming out of Super. And she's going to be able to join the fight whenever she wants. And IG going to be forced to vacate the premises. As they're hanging around, they also know DK is ready to roll. RP will be off cooldown, is off cooldown. Not will be, is off cooldown flat out. So IG know they have to be very careful. Burning, going right into lane. I mean, the cleave damage plus the burn damage alone is what we saw just chewing through IG. It wasn't even that they were getting bursted. Now we're going to see YYF get bursted down. There's the mech to try and keep him up. He threw the wall down, but irrelevant. Now, another RP and a skewer, bringing him back. Super does not miss RPs. And that one happening on the low ground, while the rest of the fight took place on the high. We're going to see Roshan drop, and we may see them rush a Tier 2. It's not even that the respawn timers are long enough for them to do it, but at this point, I mean, they need the RP, but they built such a lead for themselves. On the way up towards 5,000 gold in their favor, coming up on 10,000 experience. That's actually the more impressive thing. If you look at the hero level, 17, 15, 15 to the one level 15 hero in the Lone Druid on IG. So definitely beginning to pull ahead and nigh every metric.
As Super is playing out of his mind good. Like, it was so important for him during the early game to stop the pushes for his team that if they didn't, Burning would have not had nearly enough time to farm. Like, IG just would have snowballed, killed every single Tier 1, and at that stage, you can't really recover that well. It's very difficult, especially with heroes like Spectre and Weaver, because they don't play well from behind. But because of his performance, they've basically put themselves in a position where Burning is super far ahead now, and even ROTK on the off-lane Weaver, he's going to have a Desolator BKB at around 31 minutes, which isn't too shabby either. So DK looking fantastic here in game number 3. I think, honestly, for IG right now, taking a team fight is so tough, because the last engagement, Burning didn't even have a heart. Like, he had just a casual vitality booster, and I think he had about 4,400 gold banked or something like that. So now, not only does he have a heart, but he's got an Aegis. So I don't think IG are going to be too keen on taking the next team fight.
Yeah, you can see Dragon Knight probably working on a halberd, realizing just how essential it's going to be to try and find some way to burst down DK's Spectre. And like you said, I mean, the guy's just gigantic. He's sitting at 15,000 net worth, 11,000 and 10,000 the next highest. Well, they actually did track down the Darkseer at bottom. And there's another RP. It looks like he only spin it on Zoe and skewered him back. Zoe will be able to barely make it away. But DK, oh no, he actually did get him. Very, very close. So the Lone Druid ends up dropping. That's another 2-for-0 trade. And DK now tripling up IG in terms of kills. 7,500 gold going in favor of DK, 15,000 experience. This got out of hand in a hurry.
No doubt, 14 kill lead is a pretty big deal, especially since it's only 32 minutes in. And I say only 32 minutes because the last game we cast was 98 minutes and some change. So yeah, it's only 32 minutes in. They're going for the tier 2 here in the offlane. IG don't really have any chance of defending this. No one's really even in position to try. But again, the story of this game has more or less been super. Even though that was a one-man RP, they killed the Lone Druid for it, so it doesn't matter. And the fact that the Spectre is like unbelievably farmed at this point, and being able to actually utilize Empower, because Spectre is a hero, unlike most carries, who doesn't want to build the BKB,
right,
just because getting focused is something that she is happy about, considering she has Dispersion and of course Radiance Burn. This push is really tough for IG. I mean, they can drop a wall, but it's really only going to help them for about 30 seconds, and then DK can just group up again and go for the push. They have the Aegis for some time, but they might just try to farm the jungle instead and just be very aggressively positioned and try to choke IG out with a golden experience lead.
I can tell you, based on evidence, they will wait on a Roshan.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen.
Yep, that's what's going to happen. They're going to go, okay, we need a full Aegis. We have an Aegis right now. Just doesn't have enough time. Don't want to take any chances. So 33 minutes, 27 seconds. Burning in phenomenal shape. I mean, again, the net worth, top 3 net worth, all belonging to DK. And you have a Magnus that is more farmed than a solo safe lane Lone Druid. It's been, unfortunately, that kind of a game for Invictus Gaming so far. The Enchantress will be building, one would think, a Scepter, looking to up her single target DPS so she can contribute to these fights a bit more. Zoe isn't in decent shape. I mean, he's got his Maelstrom up, he's got his Hyperstone. He's not all that far away from having his full Cuirass. And Ferrari, again, most likely saving up for the Halberd. Just some item to try and take Mercurial out of the fight if they possibly can. Doesn't look like DK wants to give him the chance, though, and no, the wrong part of town at the wrong time. No way he walks away. They're going to try to mech through it, and he's going to be cleaned up. The rest can't even respond. The rest of IG just took off. Just took off. No way they could come help, and they knew it.
A typical Spectre contribution. Haunts in, auto attacks once, gets the kill.
Yep.
But yeah, Burning is going to be quite pleased with himself for that. It's funny I mentioned that because he has 15 assists because of how good Radiance and Haunt is for getting assists in general. Oh.
RP on one target, just YYF. They'll take it.
No wall.
Yep.
It's big.
That was big. Forces a buyback, actually. Ferrari's there. Trying to, I mean, just look how much damage he's taking. Even spinning the Dragon Tail on Burning, he can't stand around and do damage because of the burn. Now, oh, very nice. He had stole it. RP'd on top of the wall. Now they're going to come out. BKBs are up. Beautiful impale. Caught 2. Both are going to drop because of it. GG. Tell you right now, that's the shortest feeling 35-minute game of my life. But Team DK knocks down the defending champions, knocks them down to the lower bracket, and writes yet another chapter in what they hope will be a legendary path through the International 3 for Burning's final season. Draskell, great game, and really, again, it's weird. It's like if the roles had been reversed and IG had done that to DK, I could almost understand that a little bit easier. Because I could look at it and say something like, well, maybe, you know, DK's losing game 2 came out flat. But it's exactly how it felt with IG. They felt like they were just flat and that they were just one step behind all the time.
Well, honestly, it was like all super.
Yep.
I mean, Super's mag play was spectacular. You really couldn't have asked more from him. Gets 3-man RP and another 3-man RP, and then like, every single time he RP'd outside of the one where he got just a Lone Druid, they were on point every single time. And they needed him to succeed in that position. If he didn't, they didn't have any other hero who could counter push because he had Shockwave, of course, and his ultis. But other than that, man, just really fantastic games from DK.
And we could see the ovation from the crowd as our players make their way out. A great series, a legendary series, and a historic series at a historic event. DK, again, Downs IG sends them to the lower bracket 2-1. And game 2 was a bit of an adventure. So I'll tell you what, let's throw it back to the desk. James and crew, let them break it down.
Thank you, AC and Draskell, for, commentating that series first off. If you're in the auditorium and you can hear me, give AC and Draskell a round of applause just for all their great commentary sticking out there. And, of course, we'll be having them back throughout the tournament as well. So there we have it. It is going to be DK to win 2-1 over what were the champions of last year, coming in looking for another victory. They can still do so, but the matchup, DK taking 2-1, you guys kind of predicted this.
Yeah, definitely. I think DK looks strong in the group stage, and I think they were the better team. I'm very glad to see them win.
By the way, I just want to tell people at home, the reason that we had to keep AC and Draskell on camera wasn't because we were taunting them that they had to just keep talking, was because Malk was literally sprinting from across the room, and you were the first person. I was really surprised you were the first. You were out of breath, Malk.
Yeah, I'm completely out of breath. I had dinner, and suddenly game over. That's a long run.
You were very fast, like a whippet. Anyway, but you saw the game because you were watching it while you were eating.
Yes.
So, what have you got to say?
I'll leave Ben to it and catch my breath.
Okay, Ben.
I really like the Spectre pick. I think they did really well in it. I think in the month of July, if we could hear some stats on Spectre by the use of DK, Burning really impresses me on that hero.
It's just the pass-off show right now. He throws it at you, you throw it at Bruno. No one's got nothing to say. Bruno, what have you got for us?
Well, I was checking Spectre statistics in this tournament so far, and it was about 50-50. It was 5-4. Now it's actually 6-4. It's not 50-50, but just close to. I don't think the Spectre itself was a strong pick, but the combination of that with the Weaver, which is, I think, already the hero of the tournament, and the Magnus, which, let's face it, Super could not stop making great RPs all the game. So when you put all that, it's kind of like where we're talking LGD doing Alchemist and Magnus and giving him that free Battle Fury in the sense of overpower. Spectre had that as well, with the Weaver as well. What LGD couldn't do, because they only had one carry trying to get it all over the team.
Did you just call them LGD?
No, what LGD couldn't do in the match they lost against Alliance by using Alchemist and having only Alchemist as a carry, DK could, nice save, DK could, because they had not only Spectre but also Weaver.
Yeah, it was a good match for DK, and I actually was in the player area for a bit because I needed to stretch my legs, obviously, after the whole series. I spoke to Puppy. I was like, what's the state of the game? He's like, well, Spectre's free farming. That's a bad thing. Lone Druid needs to pick up a Hand of Midas to stay relevant going into the later stages of the game. He didn't pick up a Hand of Midas, so it was a Maelstrom. GPM was around, kind of the 300, 350 mark. Wasn't enough. Spectre was too big, and with the RPs, as you mentioned, from Super, it was just DK's game to take. So, speaking of DK, we're going to go and welcome back Casey. It's been too long since we've seen you, Casey. Give us an interview.
Thank you,